Dear 18-year-old Josh, over the next 7 years on your journey to becoming 25, there are a lot of things that you're going to come across along the way. I know exactly how you feel right now, and you are probably thinking about so many different things. From how your freshman year of college is going to go, to if you are making the right decision by going to CCRI first rather than URI. You're wondering if you're going to be missing out on anything. You're curious what's going to happen with your high school friendships. And you are worried about what is next. And here I am, the 25-year-old you, writing from 7 years in the future, and I can honestly say, you're going to be amazed at how much you're going to be able to accomplish by the time you turn 25. You're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, but you are going to learn some invaluable lessons along the way. And I really hope to be writing to you within another 5 years about the immaculate lessons that you're going to learn in the second half of your 20s. I graduated from high school 7 years ago in 2014, and I can honestly say there has been many lessons that I've learned since then. And I can also honestly say that I really wish that either A, someone taught me these lessons before I graduated high school, or B, I wasn't so ignorant to these lessons and these principles and I had taught them to myself before I graduated high school. I learned how to communicate with people. I learned how you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I learned that it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks, it matters only what you think. But most importantly, I really wish someone taught me these personal finance lessons that I learned once I graduated from high school. As I've talked about so many different times on the channel, and everyone watching this video probably knows this, but it's no secret that personal finance is not really taught in high schools. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know how big of a difference it would really make, because I know me personally, when I was in high school, you could have thrown just about anything at me and I would have just given it right back to you as quickly as possible to try to get it done. So I think a lot of students like me would have just been ignorant to personal finance. Now, don't get me wrong, when I graduated high school, I was not financially literate by any means, not even close. I was that person that wanted to save money. I wanted to put as much money in my savings account as possible, as I've talked about in previous videos. I got a thrill of seeing that next dollar bill in my bank account. I got a thrill of seeing that next $100, that next $1,000. So I was much more of a saver. I wasn't that type of person that was just going to say, get out of work, get paid on Friday, and then spend it all by Saturday. That just was not me at all. And what I want to do in this video is I want to go over 7 different personal finance lessons that I've learned since I've graduated high school, one for each year. So I really hope you guys get a tremendous amount of value out of this, whether you're in your 30s or later than 30s, whether you're in your teens, or maybe you're somewhere in between just looking to start investing. I hope you get an insane amount of value out of this. I really do. Some of these are going to be strictly personal finance. Some of these are going to be able to be tied into personal finance, but are also kind of going to be life lessons that I think are extremely valuable as well. All I ask from you guys is that you drop a like on the video. That really does help out the channel, and that really does help the channel grow in a tremendous way. So if you guys don't mind doing that, thank you so much. Now, the first lesson that we're going to talk about on this list, and we're going to start with the extreme basic ones, and as we get later into the video, we're going to get into the more in-depth ones, the more, I guess, original ones, maybe ones that you haven't heard before. But the first lesson that we are going to talk about on this list that I would tell 18-year-old Josh if I could talk to him today is that it's now or never. You hear people literally all the time, not just with investing, but with so many different things. They say things like, I'm going to start tomorrow. I will start when I get a better job. I am going to start investing when I have more money. And the truth is, some people might have a legit excuse why they can't afford to invest at this point in time. Granted, I think that means that you might have to reevaluate your life, reevaluate your paycheck, reevaluate what you're doing for work, but that's a topic for a different video. But along, I guess, similar but different lines, I feel like most people, if they really want to change their financial futures, they're gonna find a way. They're gonna find a way to spend $5, $10, $15, $20, $50 less a week on something, regardless of what it is. Maybe it's groceries, maybe you're getting great value instead of like something from Stop and Shop. Maybe you're just deciding you're not going out this night of the week. Most people can cut back on something and invest a little bit of money each week. And those are the people that are really going to be successful in my personal opinion. Now, getting back on topic, what I was previously talking before, if you say you are really going to start investing tomorrow, and you actually mean that for whatever reason, because sometimes I say this too, I say, I'll just do this tomorrow. And I actually do it tomorrow because I'm like, I have a different priority or something else I need to focus on right now. and this is not as high on my priority list, so I will focus on this task tomorrow. But you actually have to do it tomorrow. And if you really wait one day, is it really going to make that big of a difference? Probably not. But it's not so much about investing that $5, $10, $15, $50 today. It's more so around the idea of starting a new habit, starting a new lifestyle that's really going to change your life for the better, and starting that now and taking that first step forward. It's kind of like when you see someone who's trying to cut back on spending and they decide to cut out that $3 to $4 coffee from Starbucks they get every single day. Now, for a lot of people, is it really going to matter if you get that $3 to $4 coffee from Starbucks? Probably not, especially if you're only doing it a couple times a week or a few times a month. Does it add up over time? I mean, yes, the $3 to $4 a day doesn't make a huge difference in my opinion. But, and I stand by this and I think this is a really good idea, I feel like if you're willing to cut out that $3 to $4 coffee from Starbucks, you'll be willing to cut out bigger items that you don't need as well. And it just starts with that little itsy bitsy item. Or in other words, you're basically going to see a snowball effect, and you're essentially just going to be cutting out things that you don't need left and right. And to anyone out there who's watching this video, or maybe you've watched my videos in the past and you don't invest, I want you to name one person. Name one person who is a millionaire and does not invest. There aren't too many out there. And I know there's gonna be someone in the comments that's gonna be saying, well, what about professional athletes? They don't invest and they get paid very handsomely. Well, that brings me to number 2 on my list, actually. And number 2 on this list, that if I could go back and tell 18-year-old Josh I would, is that you can invest in other things that don't require money. When it comes to investing, I feel like everyone has this stereotypical mindset that states you have to have a lot of money to invest, which definitely is not true. As I covered in the first example, you can invest as little as $10, $15, $20, $50 a week, and that's going to add up over time and change your life. But I feel like people are saying, I don't have enough money to buy Apple stock. I don't have enough money to buy Facebook stock. I don't have enough money to buy Google stock, so I'm just not going to invest at all. Well, if that's the truth and you really don't have any money at all to invest, you can invest other things, like your time, for example. What if you invested your time into learning something new? Maybe that's learning about the stock market or learning how to budget better so you have more money to invest. What if you tried to invest in relationships and you really tried to be around someone who's extremely like-minded as you, and you want to be around them so you can grow as a person? For example, you could look at you going to a friend's house to talk about the stock market, to learn about investing, as an investment of your time. You can also look at you just investing $15 into a book about the stock market as a very solid investment that's really going to help build your human capital. So maybe if you feel like you don't have the money to invest yet, or you're not ready to invest yet because you're not knowledgeable about it, think about investing in a different way. I personally think investing your time can really provide one of the greatest ROIs out there, because the more time you invest into something, the more you are going to get out of it. The third thing that we are going to discuss on this list, on this letter that we are sending to itsy bitsy 18-year-old Josh, is get a credit card as soon as possible. Now, when we are 18, that is a big moment in our life, because that's the first time in our life where we are essentially leaving everyone that we've gone to school with up until that point. And we have a lot of really big life decisions to make, like, where are we going to school next year? Where are my friends going to school next year? Are my friends doing anything else? Where are we going to live next year? But no one takes the time to really sit down and talk to those 18-year-olds about how important it is to get a credit card so they can start building their credit as soon as possible. Whether you're buying a car or a house, you are going to need credit unless you're going to be buying these things in cash, which for the majority of people is not feasible. This is something I did not understand when I was younger, and as I talked about in a recent video, I've been working for a very long time, longer than most. When I was 13, I was reffing soccer, and I was paid handsomely, I would say, for my time and effort at the age of 13. But the point I'm trying to make here is that when I was young, I had a decent amount of money, let's say, because like I just said, I didn't have a ton of expenses. I didn't really have a lot of things I was spending money on, so that money was just sitting in my pocket. So when I got to high school, and I started going out with my friends, maybe on the weekends, I started to drive, I had to pay for gas, pay for all these other things, or a few other things. You obviously don't have too many expenses when you're in high school. But I started to pay for these things, and it just didn't really, I guess, sit with me why I had to have a credit card. I thought, okay, I have cash, so why charge this? Because I have the money right here, right now. I might as well pay it and get it over with. What was I thinking? Well, paying with a credit card is actually gonna do a lot for you, especially if you start using one at a very young age. First and foremost, by doing this at a young age, you're going to be able to start building your credit much sooner, which I know about the argument of maybe the credit system's not, I guess, run the right way and it seems a little backwards. I understand that. But if you want the best interest rates possible when making these big lifestyle decisions and these big lifestyle upgrades, because eventually we are going to have to upgrade our car, maybe we will have to get a bigger house if we decide to start having a family, these things are going to happen and you might have to take out debt to do it. And you're going to get a high interest rate if you don't have a good credit score. One of the key factors that plays into having a good credit score is your credit history. So say you're 30 years old and you go to buy a house and maybe your credit history is only 5 years. That's not going to look as good as, say, maybe someone who's 30 years old and they've had a credit history for 12 years. Having a credit card when you're younger, you're most likely also not going to have the highest limit available because you're probably not making a lot of money. So what this is going to do is going to teach you how to manage money. It's going to teach you how to not get into excessive amounts of credit card debt. And it's also hopefully going to teach you how to not end up on the Dave Ramsey show. And lastly, to me personally, it just makes sense to pay for everything with a credit card because of cash back. For example, if you have the Amazon rewards card, you get 5% off of everything you order on Amazon.
Guys!
Which in this day and age for most people watching this video, I'm sure might be a lot. And the way I like to look at it is, say you go to get something from maybe Target or maybe the mall or any retail store, you're basically paying an additional 5% as opposed to if you just ordered that item on Amazon. And this doesn't apply to just the Amazon credit card. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of credit cards out there that'll give you 1 to 2% back on restaurants, gas stations, groceries, and many, many more things. And I know there's someone out there watching this that might be thinking, well, it's only 1 to 2%. Does it really matter, especially if the item's only like $5 or $10? Yes, I see your point, but at the same time, if you're doing absolutely nothing different besides instead of handing someone cash or maybe swiping your debit card, especially if you're swiping your debit card, you're just swiping out your credit card, you might as well save that 1 to 2%. Lesson 4 up on this list that 18-year-old Josh is going to learn in this video is you need to think about the game you're playing. I talked about this in one of my most recent videos, but I feel like a lot of the things that are taught in school aren't the most relevant things in life. For example, not every single person is gonna have to use calculus or pre-calculus to do their job, but it's something that just about every single high school has, and it's something that a lot of high school students take, either pre-calculus or calculus, before they graduate. So essentially, and this might sound a little harsh in a way, but this is kind of how I process it in my mind, and this is kind of how I'm thinking about this. We essentially want students to learn calculus and pre-calculus, and we want to scold them and degrade them and fail them with a letter or a number grade if they really can't grasp this concept of math, this concept of calculus and pre-calculus. And we want to do that, and we do that, but it's a skill that they very well may never ever use again in their life once they get outside of that class. Now, don't get me wrong, some people are gonna go on to be engineers, some people are gonna go on to be calculus teachers, and these people might need to know this level of math. But not every single person is going to want to go down that rabbit hole, go down that path. So it just seems a little counterintuitive to me, but every single person is going to need to learn how to manage their finances at one point or another in their lives, and yet we don't teach anything about that in school. It just seems a little backwards to me. Anyway, getting back on track here, when I say think about the game you're playing, and this might be a little bit harder to do when you're a little bit younger, if you're in middle school or maybe even your early years of high school, what I mean by that is think about the things that are really going to get you ahead in life, or the things that are really going to be valuable to your life in the coming years and over the long term. And on the other end of that, things that maybe aren't bringing a ton of value to your life, or things that maybe aren't going to be as important over the next 5 or 10 years, like maybe the fact that you got a C in calculus, or maybe the fact that you got a C in history and you have no desire to pursue any sort of history profession or be involved in math in any way, shape, or form. just forget about those things and move on to those priorities, move on to those big factors, those big situations that are really going to provide a lot of value in your life over the long term. And I've been doing this over the past couple of years, especially in school. If I maybe get a grade I'm not overly happy with, as long as I can get by, I can say to myself, okay, does this really matter today? Yes. Is it going to matter over 5 or 10 years when I'm done with this class, when I'm done with this professor? Probably not, so I just try to move on from it. I can honestly say when I was in high school, I took PreCalc, and I didn't have the easiest time with it. I was very inconsistent with it for a lot of reasons. But looking back 7 years later, does that really matter? Has it affected my life in any sort of way? Do I regret it? Have I missed out on any potential jobs because of how I did in PreCalc? Those answers would be no across the board. Lesson number 5 on this list is get 1% better each and every day. Now, this is going to be one of those lessons that can apply to finances, but it can also apply to a lot of other different things in life as well. And it also kind of ties into that first lesson where I'm saying it's now or never. So many times you see people go through life day to day and they're almost like flatlining. They're not going like this, making consistent progress, bettering themselves, getting themselves in a better position, but they're just going like this. And maybe they do have these really ambitious goals. They have these personal goals that they want to accomplish, but they get up in the morning, they go to work, and they get home from work, and maybe they just have a really tough job. Maybe they had a long day, but they're feeling a lot of resistance and they just can't muster up the energy and effort to work on their own personal goals. So what they end up doing, instead of sitting down and working on maybe their YouTube channel for a few hours, or maybe looking into stocks, or whatever personal goal that you might have, it might not be finance related, it might not be the same goals that I have, they end up just sitting down. Maybe they have a beer, maybe they have a glass of wine, maybe they just do something else, they sit and relax on the couch with their family. They don't work on their goals and they just end up watching TV or watching Netflix, which if you do that, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you do that over so many years, you're really going to set yourself back many, many years in the process of achieving these personal goals you have. But what if instead of really setting yourself back and giving up and just opening that beer, pouring that glass of wine, turning on Netflix, what about instead of doing that, you decided, I'm gonna do a little bit. I'm gonna do 1%. I'm just gonna do 1% of what I want to accomplish. I'm not gonna, dive into this whole goal. I'm not gonna have this big elaborate plan all laid out tonight, but what if I just take one step? What if I do 1% today? What if I do 1% tomorrow? And then the next day, and the next day. Well, if you do that over the course of the year, that's gonna add up to about a 300% increase. Now, to put that even more into perspective about how awesome that is, say you buy a stock today and it goes up 300%. A 300% ROI is incredible, but the issue is most people don't want to see that 300% over the course of time. They want to see that 300% gainer literally overnight, and that's just not feasible in a lot of situations. It's much more feasible to work on getting 1% better each and every day and look back and see how far you've come over the course of many, many months. I can tell you that when I started writing the script for this video, I had a lot of resistance going on. I had gotten up at 5, I did about 3 to 4 hours of researching stocks, editing, planning out this video kind of in my head, like mentally preparing for it. I hadn't really written anything down yet, but I did get the video idea. Once I had done that, I went and worked at my full-time job for 8 hours. Once I got done with that, I went and worked at my side job for 3 or 4 more hours. And then I got home around like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I was just toasted. And I'm usually pretty good about coming home and doing some stuff, getting myself ahead for the next day, but it was just one of those days I was just fried and I didn't want to do anything. But rather, instead of me just throwing in the towel, quitting and going to bed, I said to myself, let me just do 1%. Let me get 1% further than I am right now, so I am in a better position tomorrow. I didn't challenge myself to write out the entire 10-page script when I got home because I feel like that would have just burned me out. But I did challenge myself to get 1% better, to write out the introduction, to write out the outline for this video, so I was in a better position tomorrow when I got up in the morning to immediately start working. And I did that, and I succeeded, and I can honestly say it really set me up in a much better position the following day. So 1%, that's what I'm challenging you watching this video. Once you're done watching this video, get 1% better after this. The sixth lesson on this list that we are going to be talking about is know your value as a person. And I think this one's really going to be important to a lot of people out there, and a lot of people are really going to be able to rationalize with this, because once you get hired at a job and they give you an offer, whether that's a salary or maybe it's hourly, you are saying you are worth that as a person. Your time is worth that much. But people don't think of it like that. People don't think that when you get hired, you're essentially determining your value right from the jump, and your value is going to increase based off of that initial value over the coming years. For example, say you get a job offer and you are offered a salary position of 100 grand a year. You are saying that your time and efforts for that job are worth $100,000 a year. And I've also made this mistake several times in my life. I really have. And I feel like when people get offered a job and they're looking for a job, they feel apt to take it right off the back, right off the jump. And in some situations, it might make sense, especially if the money you're being offered is more than what you know what to do with. But depending on what the job is, what the offer is, it might actually make sense to either A, which is what I would do, counter offer, or B, decline the job offer because you know your value as a person and you know that you're worth more than what they're offering you. Personally, I view someone that says, thank you so much for the offer, I respect it, but I am politely going to decline. I view that as a very, very powerful move, because you know your value and you know that you are above that dollar sign that they are putting in front of you, which is absolutely awesome. And the last thing we're going to be talking about in this video, the last lesson that 18-year-old Josh is going to learn in this video, is that even if you don't have an interest in something, take up an interest in it. So I see people all the time, literally all the time, and I'm not excluded from this in any way. I've definitely been a victim of this, and I've definitely done this in the past. But someone will have an idea or maybe a proposition or something, and they will bring it up to another person. And it could be a number of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be investing related. It could be job related, but it's something that really has the potential to better that other person's life in a massive way. And what do I hear that person respond with a lot of the time? Rather than really sitting down and listening to what this person has to say, listen to their proposition, really do a full DD job on this proposition, that person says, I don't know how to do that. I don't think that's a good idea. No, without doing any research at all. Now, if you're presented with an idea and you take a week or two, you do your full research, you really dive into the topic and you say, thank you so much, but I really don't think this is for me. I don't think this is a good idea. Fair game. Fair game. We can agree to disagree. But if someone presents you with an idea and you immediately shoot it down and say, I have no interest, it might still be worth your time to do a little bit of research on the subject and really dive into it, at least at surface level, to see what it's about, just in case you get down the line and you realize down the line that you've really wasted a lot of time not pursuing this venture that was brought up to you several years ago. For example, and this goes back to me absolutely being included in this category, and I've told this story several times on the channel. When I worked at URI, I was very young when I started, and someone brought up to me the idea of retirement accounts and investing in a retirement account because I was making more money than the average 19-year-old. So they thought it'd be a good idea for me to start investing money, putting some money away, and I would have much more investments and assets in my middle-aged years than most people did. And what did I do? Instead of listening to them, I immediately shot down the idea because I didn't think it was for me, I didn't think it was relevant, and I didn't know anything about it. In other words, I was being very ignorant. Now, that might be kind of ironic looking to where we are today, because investing and personal finance is all I practice and preach. But my point is, I did waste a lot of time by not diving into that topic of investing much earlier in my life. Another example along the same lines is I have friends who think the stock market is gambling. And there's nothing wrong with that. And granted, you guys know I have a different opinion on this. And these friends that I have, they're not financially literate, which again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I don't care what they do with their money. It's their money. It's not going to affect me in any way, shape, or form. But it does worry me in the aspect of, because they're not receptive to this idea and this concept of investing now, I'm afraid that we're going to get maybe in our 40s, maybe in our 50s, and they're going to be like, man, I really wish I had invested more when I was younger because I would be in a lot better position now. That's what worries me, and I'm afraid the same thing that happened to me when I was at URI is going to happen to them, except they're not going to realize it as early and as soon as I did. Now, does this mean you have to dive in and research every idea that's pitched to you to the point where you're an expert? No. Absolutely not, but just having the ability to be open-minded about everything, not turn down anything, is really a mindset that I personally feel has changed my life, and it's a mindset I really feel like can change your life as well. And I feel like this is an important mindset to have because you'll never know when a great idea is going to come across your desk. I've heard some of the stupidest ideas ever, like ideas I've laughed at, and I've called them back and asked them to tell me more about it because once I've looked into it, it's actually really interesting. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really hope you guys got a tremendous amount of value out of this. If you did, make sure to drop a like on the video. That really does help out the channel. It really helps the channel grow. If this is your first video that you are watching of mine, welcome to the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell because I post new videos every single week. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in next week's video.